Hello, I'm John Degree from Classical Historian. I'd love to talk to you about American founding fathers and the institution of slavery. You hear some people saying we can't honor the American founding fathers because so many of them owned slaves, and owning slavery is a moral evil. So, how could we honor the American founding fathers? Or you hear people saying, how could you honor the American Constitution when at the time there were people in America who owned slaves, and therefore America was based in slavery? So, these people are making the mistake of presentism. That is, judging the past from purely today's moral and ethical codes. When we look at the past, we need to see the past in context. So let's begin with the American colonies. When the American colonies were founded in the 1600s and lasting through the American Revolution, right, from 1775 to 1783, slavery was not uncommon around the world. It was not exceptional. In fact, it was normal. It was normal that there were slaves. There were slaves on every continent in the 1600s and 1700s. There were slaves in Africa. Black African kings owned other slaves. Slavery was legal in Europe, in Asia, in South America, in North America. It was very common. So when the colonies started in America, it wasn't so unusual that the colonists had slaves. In fact, it was normal. What was abnormal was that throughout the 1700s and the northern colonies, slavery was being abolished. There were the English colonists abolishing slavery. We have one of the world's first abolitionist societies started by Benjamin Franklin before the American Revolution began. So he was an American founding father, and he was on the forefront of abolishing slavery. Then we have in the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson writing the ideals of the country. All men are created equal. He didn't write all white people are created equal, but all men are created equal. And Thomas Jefferson, in his initial Declaration of Independence, wanted slavery to be illegal. He wanted it to be against the law. But some of the Southern colonists would not go along with this declaration if that were meant to stay. And so Jefferson knew, and all the founding fathers knew, that to break away from Great Britain, we needed all of the colonies fighting together. And so they had to leave in that slavery would be legal in the states that chose to have it be legal. And then let's come to Washington, right? Our great general of the Continental Army, our first president, a man who did so much for the young United States of America. Yes, he owned slaves, but again, like I said before, in most countries of the world, in almost all countries of the world, in fact, in every country of the world, in 1776, slavery was legal, and many leaders owned slaves. It was not uncommon that Washington had slaves. It was not part of the American exceptionalism. What is interesting is that he changed his mind about slavery throughout his lifetime, and at his death, in his will, he did free his own slaves, okay, which was considered pretty much amazing at that time. So we need to remember that America was an exceptional country. At the time it was founded, kings and dictators ruled all other lands. We were the first modern republic created in the world. At our founding, we were the freest place on earth. And after the Civil War, after the Civil War, America freed all of its slaves. This was 1865, okay? This was not the first country to free its slaves. It's believed in the modern world that was Haiti in 1804, but Americans fought a great war to do that. Over 600,000, maybe 700,000 men died fighting this war, and slaves were freed. So it did take a long time, but the words of Thomas Jefferson, all men are created equal, became the law of the land with the 13th Amendment and with citizenship. And then, of course, over the years in the civil rights movement, Black Americans received the civil rights that all Americans deserve. So American founding fathers were great people. They founded the freest country on earth, not the most perfect country, but Over time, it has become greater and freer. I'm John Degree from Classical Historian. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.